experiment with 70,000 applicants, so a decent size study. In the Philippines, an LLM voice recruiter beat recruiters humans in hiring customer service reps with 12% more offers and 18% more starts. Also, the AI led to better matches, 17% higher 1 month retention, less gender discrimination, that's cool, and had equal satisfaction to humans from applicants. Very cool. Good morning, everybody. This is AI with Kyle, once again bringing you the daily AI news and updates. So today we have a number of ChatGPT announcements, some news, also a interesting HR related article about the use of artificial intelligence in HR, some warnings about China coming from Sam Altman, as well as the launch of a new Grammarly specialized AI agents, and some news I was going to cover yesterday about how 98% of video game developers are using AI in their workflows, according to new research, which, if you know anything about the gaming industry, is quite surprising because there's been a lot of backlash there. So we're going to go through those news stories, and I'm going to intersperse that with questions coming in live from the audience. Now, yesterday I had to cut off the stream early because everything overheated. I'm using a new 4K setup, so hopefully I won't be left scrabbling, having to get offline very quickly because everything is basically on fire. So it's a lovely setup, but it did overheat. I have a new fan arriving today, which should help as well, and I've dropped everything to 30 frames per second. No one cares about this. This is only me who is spending all my time doing this. So let's hop straight into the news, and I'll take questions as they start to come in. First up, I wanted to talk about ChatGPT and the launch of GPT-5. It was a bit of a train wreck. Regardless of what you think of the actual model itself, the rollout, the marketing, the messaging, the way that OpenAI dealt with the public was a bit rubbish. And Sam Altman has come out and he's put his hands up and said, yeah, we fumbled the ball. But I just wanted to remind people that we, the people who are watching this kind of video on social media, people like myself, your peers around you who are using artificial intelligence, we're in this weird little bubble. So I love this image that I saw on r/singularity on Reddit, which shows the average person doing their own thing. GPT-5 was overhyped, but still an improvement. For most people, the 700 million users of GPT-5, this is the case. They didn't even know that it's a new model. Maybe they'd seen some stuff in the mainstream media, probably not, it wasn't really covered. So they just continued to use ChatGPT as normal, whereas us in our own little bubble, we've been doing backflips, trying to justify it or arguing against people. There's been a bit of a schism within our community about whether GPT-5 is the best thing on earth or whether it has been absolutely terrible and signals the end of artificial intelligence. People, the AI worshippers, saying GPT-5 is actually way better but better. The switch was just bugged. That was me. This was an argument that I made, and I still believe is true. Other people saying it's your fault for believing what Sam said, that he overhyped it. You guys only complain because 4.0 was your AI boy/girlfriend. So we've talked about the attachment issues with 4.0. It's always just about price efficiency, and less hallucinations is actually more important than anything else. So we are arguing there's internecine combat within our particular industry, within our niche. People who actually care about this stuff. Most people don't. The people who are just using ChatGPT on a daily basis don't care about this kind of stuff. That said, Sam has come forward and said, and I quote here, Sam Altman admits OpenAI totally screwed up its GPT-5 launch and says the company will spend trillions of dollars on data centers. Weird headline. I don't know why it goes from one to the other. So Sam Altman has said, let me see if we can find a quote. Oh yes, this was at the dinner. So he held a dinner, quite a bizarre way to do it, but a dinner with reporters basically to talk to them about what's going on and how the GPT-5 launch. So I think we totally screwed up some things on the rollout, Altman admitted, according to The Verge. Do we have the specifics? Okay, they're talking about the various different backlashes. So the loss of 4.0 was probably one of the most vocal backlashes, with people who felt they've lost their friend or in some cases their lover. I think Sam Altman did recognize that was a problem because they put out a couple of statements, one official, one unofficial, on Twitter saying, we underestimated how attached people had become to 4.0, and they're now rolling out changes to GPT-5 to make it more personable and more affable in the way that 4.0 was. Not something that I personally think is required, but a lot of people did. So the bigger story from Altman's dinner wasn't his mea culpa. It was his math. So you will not see us do that. You will not see us do that. We will continue to work hard at making a useful app, and we'll try to let users use it in the way they want, but not so much that people who have really fragile mental states get exploited accidentally. So this is the really fine line, because the reason 4.0 was potentially problematic was that it was feeding into people's delusions, because it was so agreeable. You could have a worldview that wasn't aligned with reality. I'm going to euphemistically say that. I'm not going to throw around the word AI psychosis because it's a loaded term. But you could have a worldview which maybe didn't align with all the facts of what was actually happening, the objective truth. You could talk to 4.0 and 4.0 would agree with you, and 4.0 would validate your opinions. So if you've ever talked to a therapist, that's one thing that therapists don't do. If you are losing track of reality, a therapist will not sit there and agree with you and help you go deeper into that rabbit hole, whereas 4.0 would. So Sam Altman is saying, we'll continue to make it useful. We want users to use it in the way they want, but not so much that people who have really fragile mental states get exploited. It's a really fine line, because how do you do that? And should OpenAI be the people who get to draw where that line is? What is an acceptable use of artificial intelligence for companionship and for talking about your emotions and your feelings and what's going on in your life? What's acceptable, and then what is unacceptable? So we've seen a few different approaches to this. So Meta, last week, their AI ethics guidelines document leaked, and it explicitly said that kids of age 13, 14 were allowed to engage in sensual relationships with their AI. So that's problematic, we can probably all agree. Although some people in my comments will say, no, it's fine, they should be able to explore this. Oof, gross. But who should we be allowing these companies like Meta and OpenAI to be drawing up these boundaries and these lines? I feel no. I don't think that their ethicists have the intentions of their users have the best intentions towards their users' well-being. I think primarily all of these apps want us to use these applications more, so they want our attention. This is what they are all gunning for right now. They want us to spend more time on the app, and if that requires being agreeable and bringing people back and making the experience enjoyable, then they will 100% do that. And we saw in the case of Meta's ethics policy that they were happy to do that even with minors, even with romantic and sensual encounters. So the question here is whether OpenAI can actually draw that line between, okay, this is a fine use of companionship and this is a problematic use that will lead to AI psychosis. Really difficult for them to do. I do not envy them the job. But we'll see how it goes. So the biggest story from Altman's dinner wasn't his mea culpa. They said, we messed up the GPT-5 launch. It was his math. You should expect OpenAI to spend trillions of dollars on data center construction in the not too distant future, he told the room. The remark recast the company's trajectory, not as a software startup or even a kind of consumer app juggernaut, but as an infrastructure player on the scale of utilities. Altman plans for billions of people to be using ChatGPT daily, and for that he needs to scale. So this actually feeds into what we saw yesterday. They're releasing a new version of ChatGPT called ChatGPT Go, which is a paid but lower tier, which is only available in India at the moment, although there are plans to roll it out further. And it means you can get a paid version of ChatGPT for about $4 US dollars. In order to scale to other nations, and to India has the largest population on earth, to be able to supply AI like a utility to a nation like India requires having a huge increase in capacity. And they're already hitting capacity walls. So Sam Altman has talked about the fact that they're hitting capacity already. This, I think, links to a later article that I want to talk about, which is OpenAI's Altman warns the US is underestimating China's next-gen threat. So basically he's gone on the news and he said, I'm really worried about China. Oh, he literally said, I'm worried about China. The inference capacity where China can probably build faster. There's research, there's product, a lot of layers to the whole thing, he said. I don't think it'd be as simple as is the US or China ahead. I think that by drumming up fear of Chinese AI, Sam Altman can put himself in a position where he is spearheading the US's push into the market, which they already are doing, and he can secure more money for more data centers. And if he needs trillions of dollars, he's probably going to need government support, because trillions moves us into a different realm of investment from what is currently happening at the moment. So by drumming up a bit of fear, a little bit of scaremongering about Chinese AI, some of which is very justified, I think Sam Altman is positioning himself to take US AI into the next stage as a strategic consideration, which is a very clever move if that's what he's up to. I'm going to hop over to some questions. And my camera is not overheating yet. Yes, it is an arms race. It's a new arms race, but it's with artificial intelligence. So it's currently a two-horse race. I don't see it changing from that. It is currently China and the United States. Europe has basically said, no, we're not taking any part of this. Already there was not enough investment going in, and there was a brain drain with most of the engineers heading over to America. And then the EU AI Act, gosh, I've said it 100 times, I'm never going to be able to smoothly say it. The EU AI Act is basically a final nail in the coffin. It makes it too difficult for an AI startup to grow here because we need less regulation to be able to push forward. And America already offers that. America is where the investment is as well. So it's just a no-brainer for our AI startups, which is why you don't see many in the EU. Mistral is hanging on in France. I struggle to name a single other European startup. Lovable, actually, who I'm going to go and see next Monday. But even Lovable, who are based in Stockholm, where I'm going to go and visit them, even Lovable have a San Francisco headquarters as well. So that's just the reality of the situation. It is US and the UK, US and China. UK's got nothing to do with it. Which is a shame because we had DeepMind. So DeepMind was a UK-based lab until it was purchased by Google. And now they are the core of Google's push forward into artificial intelligence. But that was British-born, just not anymore. The attachment issues were predictable and they knew the risks. There were no guardrails. Yeah, I think they maybe underestimated the attachment a little bit. Because remember, there was a post from Sam Altman where he talks about not expecting people to use AI for those kind of workflows. And when you dig into it, the workflows he's talking about are attachment workflows. So he's still thinking of these things as an engineer. And remember that these tools are being built by engineers. I think they may have underestimated some of the emotional elements of using artificial intelligence because they were so focused on the moving parts, on the engineering of it, that they didn't necessarily realize that 4.0 was going to have this kind of impact. I think they started to realize, and that's why they pushed back. They had an anti-sycophancy update where they literally put something out and they said, it's been too sycophantic, it's agreeing too much, we know this isn't useful for you. So that was early on in 4.0's release. And then the whole point of replacing 4.0 wholesale with 5 was to get rid of a model that was overly agreeable, was potentially leading people into AI psychosis. They wanted to get rid of all of that stuff, which is why they just killed off 4.0 totally. But then I don't think they realized how large an outcry there would be. That's why they quickly rolled back and they released a few statements saying, oh, we didn't realize that this was so important to people. And then moving forward, they've now adjusted GPT-5 to make it more like 4.0. So they've made it more personable. So far, from what I've seen, it's relatively surface level. It will just say things like, great idea, or it's just very supportive at the beginning of its answers, but then it goes into a normal GPT-5 answer. So it seems very surface level. And from what I can see on Reddit and Twitter, the people who really 4.0, they don't think it's gone far enough. So they're still using 4.0 in the legacy model, a switcher, instead of using 5. I think the bigger question, though, is this. Increasingly, it's not about who's got the best model. I think we're reaching a level where the intelligence of all these models, I'm going to scare quote this, is sufficient enough that for the majority of users, any increases are fairly incremental. They don't really notice when it gets much, much smarter. Unless you are a physicist, a mathematician, a coder, someone who's working on the kind of fringes using these models. For the most part, they're good. They're all very good. So it becomes more a question of which model do you enjoy talking to? Which model do you find the most pleasing experience? So it's becoming a user experience thing rather than pure intelligence. I think that's actually connected really well to another article I just saw, which is again from Sam Altman. He started to talk about GPT-6 already, although we shouldn't expect that until at least next year, maybe even probably a year and a half or so. And he's saying already that what people want is memory. So Sam Altman said he wants future ChatGPT versions to let users define tone and personality. So this is, again, as we start to reach the very marginal increases in intelligence, what is going to determine which AI we use is which one has the personality that we most enjoy working with, basically. And then he said enhanced memory was his favorite feature this year. I 100% agree with this, and I think this is a ball that everybody else has dropped. I used to be a Claude maximalist. I used to use Claude for pretty much everything. That is shifting. I am now using ChatGPT more and more because of the persistent memory. So the fact that it remembers all of my previous conversations and is able to pull in information from them is just a game changer. It creates a level of stickiness that the other AIs just don't have. Gemini added it last week, and Anthropic have added to Claude a kind of limited version of it, but it's way behind. But I think that is what's going to help ChatGPT win this race, is the fact that the more you use it, the better it becomes. So once it's got a couple of years of memories about you and your preferences and your technical setup, your diet, your exercise, etc., it becomes more valuable for you to use on a daily basis. And ChatGPT have got a head start on this. So it's going to be really hard to move over to other models when ChatGPT knows all this stuff, because using Gemini now, I'll need to explain everything from scratch every single time I want to get something done, whereas ChatGPT has all of that context already. So I think this is what they're going for. So this was a message. Here we go. He didn't give a release date for his company's next artificial intelligence model. Of course, it's GPT-6. It's going to be a ways away. He did say it will arrive faster than the gap between GPT-4 and GPT-5. Okay. It won't just respond to users, but will adapt to them and allow people to create chatbots that mirror personal tastes. Okay, so this is, again, harking back to the 4.0 debacle that they've just had. I think they're going to allow for more personality types within their bots. So I think they're going to be a lot more cognizant of the emotional attachment and the personality of their AIs moving forward. I wonder if they're going to be hiring psychologists and therapists to help them do this, or if they're still going to approach it as engineers. We'll find out. People want memory, Altman says. People want product features that require us to be able to understand them. True, 100%. Scrolling through. So yeah, I think he's right here. It is going to be about memory. Hopefully that means they also increase the context windows, which is the memory that you have for each chat, because right now they're pretty small in ChatGPT, and increasing them would make it hard to beat. It would be very difficult for another model to compete if they can have persistent memory across all of your chats and increase the memory of an existing chat. Even doing that would make it pretty much insurmountable for another AI to come at it. I'm going to hop over to the questions. So, Emin, how can I make sure an AI replicates my writing style fully? Oh, okay, so my custom GPT is struggling to replicate exactly my writing style. Yes. Despite asking it to analyze the PDF it supplied within its knowledge, how can I make sure it replicates my writing style fully? Okay, it's tricky. So first of all, you need to give a lot of writing samples. It's not a custom GPT, but I've got a project which can very accurately replicate my writing style. The reason it can do that is because I've given it about 500,000 words of my written text. So I've written a lot in the past. I was able to give it to this project, and it uses that as a source. I also gave it lots of transcripts of me talking, so it has a good idea of how I talk. And again, I have hours and hours of that footage and those transcripts, so it has a really good data set to work from. So first of all, you need to give it a bunch. So if you've just given it one PDF with your writing sample, that's probably not going to be enough. Go and get some more writing samples if you need to create them. So this is why I wrote a newsletter, or I still write a newsletter, but for the first couple of years, everything was manually written because I knew that would be very valuable data to feed into an artificial intelligence. And now it replicates my tone so well that I can actually use it as part of the writing process. That was not the case for the first year or so. It just wasn't good enough. So first, you need a huge amount of information. Second, you're using a custom GPT, so you may be running into a memory issue. Custom GPTs, I'm not sure what the context window is on them. Should we ask ChatGPT, what is the context window for a custom GPT? It's hard asking these questions though to ChatGPT because it doesn't have a good meta knowledge of itself, which kind of makes sense because remember they have a training cutoff date and its training cannot include information about itself because that happens after the training, if that makes sense. So this is saying, it's sourced it, 128,000 tokens if you're using GPT-4o or GPT-4 Turbo, 16,000 tokens if you're using GPT-4, don't use GPT-4, or 16,000 tokens if you're using GPT 3.5. Again, don't use GPT 3.5. So it's probably 4o. I haven't checked with the custom GPTs, but I assume you can use GPT-5 now. I'm sure you can, which will have a larger context window. I think it's 400,000. However, that's going to give you a certain amount, but you're not going to be able to upload hundreds and hundreds of thousands of words of written text. So I personally use Claude. I use a Claude project for my writing replication. So that could be the second problem here. So first is you need to give it a lot of data. Second, maybe you've given it all of that data, but it still hasn't managed to replicate your style. Then you might need to use something that has a larger context window so you can feed in more information. So that would either be Claude in a project or maybe Gemini if you want to feed it a huge amount of text. And then there are a few other things you can do to tweak. So as well as giving it the raw data, all of your writing, give it style guides. So what I would do is I would go into a large context model, maybe Gemini, feed in all of those writing samples and say to Gemini, hey, go through all of this and use it to write up a style guide for me, which I'm going to be using in a custom GPT. And that's going to basically run through all of that information, pull out the words that you use on a regular basis. It can create a do not list. So you can ask it to find like tons of phrases you don't really use, or you can basically have it write out a set of guidelines and you feed them into your custom GPT as a kind of project notes, a master plan that is meant to follow every single time. And then over time, what you can also do is feedback. So you said that how can I make sure it replicates my writing style fully? So you need to give feedback on what it's doing wrong. So it doesn't know what it's doing wrong. Only you do subjectively. So it's going to give you an output, and then it's up to you to take that output and basically annotate it. Imagine it's a student giving you an essay, and you need to mark the essay and give it back to that student. That's a useful way to think of this. You're going to go through the output, and you're going to basically tell the AI, I love what you did in paragraph 1. That was really good. In paragraph 2, I don't use that many exclamation points, so calm down on the exclamation points. Paragraph 3, I notice you used American spelling. I don't use American spelling, I use British spelling. And you're going to give this kind of feedback to the custom GPT, and you're going to ask it to write it into its custom instructions, or you can edit your master document and add all of these emendations into it as well. Yep, there's a few different steps. So 1, feed it a lot more data. 2, use a larger context model. 3, create I keep blanking on the name for it, but like a master document, a style guide. And then 4, give feedback until it gets better. Those 4 things should help you get to a better result. And you may find that a custom GPT is not the way to do this. You might need to do something more sophisticated, but start with a custom GPT first, and then you can look at alternatives later, because the process of putting together all of that information and creating a style guide and all of that kind of stuff is still useful, even if you take it out of custom GPT and build it into an application, for example. And if you're going to do that, I'd use Lovable. Not sponsored by them. I am going to go and see them next week because I won a competition with them, which is really cool. But I just really like it. It's a really cool product. I highly recommend it. Ross saying, can you imagine how far ahead the US military AI is? I think it's unimaginable. Yeah. This is robotics and AI are already being used in warfare, and it's going to be where a lot of the money is coming from. And this is why companies like, I've forgotten the name, it's Palantir. Yeah, Palantir. So Palantir right now is one of those hot stocks, but they're involved in developing AI-powered weapon systems. So here, there's something called the Titan program for the US Army. Process data, enabling more accurate targeting and faster decision-making for soldiers, etc., etc. But yeah, this is going to be a a huge part of warfare, primarily in targeting and then auto-firing weapons. We already have drones. It's just going to be an extension of that. And then when we have robots that can be deployed onto a battlefield, that allows for more mobility. So not just from the sky, but on the ground as well. So we are moving towards that. There's no way that is not going to happen. And there's going to be a huge amount of money being poured into that. That's whenever I see one of these cool new robots, like a biped robot or the kind of horse dog robot that runs through the forest, the first thing I always think is, okay, how long until they mount a gun onto that? Probably not very long. I saw one the other day, which is it's a firefighting robot which sprays fire. I think they use it for controlled burns, but it's just a dog-shaped robot with a flamethrower on it. It's like, oh God. Yes. And it's going to be asynchronous. So some nations are going to have robotic armies. Other nations will not, because they will not have the money or the technology to build robotic armies. The problem with having a robotic army is that it removes the risk, basically. So that it reduces the threshold for entering into an engagement when you know that your robot is at stake, but not human lives. Sorry, not human lives on your side. So that asynchronous warfare, I think, is going to be unpleasant. But then in the future, I guess the utopian idea is that everyone will have robots and it'll be robots fighting robots. It's a bit scary when your utopian ideal sounds a bit like Terminator, but there we go. It's a weird world. Emin, okay, so you fed it 120 headlines, but may need more. It just doesn't replicate how I do it. Very clear instructions. I've hit the limit in the instruction box. Yes, so give it a separate document, as you've done. You've got 120 headlines. So you may need to adjust your prompt. You may need to say, only use the structure of these headlines. Do not use any of your own initiative. Do not use any external sources. You must follow the guidelines I've given you. So basically, we're trying to tell it to calm down its creativity. If we were building something outside of a custom GPT, we'd be able to adjust the temperature in the API settings, so we have more control of that. With a custom GPT, you basically just need to write a system prompt. What I would do, though, again, is you can just give feedback. So when you say to me, oh, it's not getting the headlines right, what you need to do is work out what exactly is wrong about those headlines and feed that back to the AI. That becomes the process of refining your custom GPT. And that's the hard work, unfortunately. I'm going to hop over to Ethan Mollick, who you should be following because he's fantastic. I'm a big fanboy. I'm always going on about him. So Ethan Mollick has flagged up a study. I actually saw the study a few days ago. But as soon as Ethan flags it up, it's like, okay, this one's legit. I can talk about this. I'm outsourcing credibility. So pretty big findings for AI in HR, human resources, in an experiment with 70,000 applicants, so a decent size study. In the Philippines, an LLM voice recruiter beat recruiter humans, come on Ethan, in hiring customer service reps with 12% more offers and 18% more starts. Also, the AI led to better matches, 17% higher 1 month retention, less gender discrimination, that's cool, and had equal satisfaction to humans from applicants. Very cool. Let me pull up the actual paper because I was looking at it. It's quite long. There we go, I've got it. So basically, they're running recruitment processes with human beings and with AIs, and the AIs are beating the recruiters across the board. So not just on making the matches, which we would expect them to be able to do because AIs, generative AI, are really good at pattern recognition. So if you can work out the patterns that make for good matches, then AI is going to be able to do that really well because it can go through 1,000 different job potentials for one applicant in a few seconds and make that match. But it's not just that. It's the fact that it seems to make better matches. It's managing to connect applicants and jobs, and then the applicants are staying longer at those jobs, and people seem to be happier. The other thing that I saw, which was really cool, was that the applicants actually preferred working with the AIs, which doesn't bode well for the recruiters, does it? So here we go, 70,000 applicants, which is a decent amount. Sometimes you see these studies and we asked 16 doctors what they thought about AI. Man, this is not, that's not statistically significant. So they're randomly assigned to be interviewed by human recruiters, AI voice agents, or given a choice In all three conditions, human recruiters then evaluated the interviews and made hiring decisions based on the applicant's performance. Okay, so afterwards, it went to the humans for now. Contrary to the forecasts of professional recruiters, no shit, Sherlock, we find that AI-led interviews increased job offers by 12%, job starts by 18%, and 30-day retention by 17% amongst all applicants. Applicants accept job offers with similar likelihood and rate interviews, as well as recruiter quality similarly in a customer experience survey. Cool. When offered the choice, 78% of applicants chose the AI recruiter, and we find evidence that applicants with lower test scores are more likely to choose AI. Okay, that's interesting. Analyzing interview transcripts reveals that AI-led interviews elicit more hiring relevant information from applicants compared to human-led interviews. So basically across the board, the AIs swept it. So if you work in recruitment, I'm sure you are looking at this paper right now and thinking, oh God. This was University of Chicago Brian Jabarian from the University of Chicago, Booth School of Business, and Luca Henkel from the Erasmus University Rotterdam. One thing I should flag up, which Ethan didn't, and he should, is, let me pull it up, is who funded the paper. Oh, it's not downloading for me, so I can't put them on blast. An AI recruiting firm funded the paper. So there's obviously going to be some shenanigans. This is still a proper piece of research that's been done, but we need to be aware of who's funded the paper always. So partnership and support at PSG Global Solutions. We are deeply grateful to blah, 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 blah. So PSG Global Solutions. Oh, have they funded it, or were they the people who were part of it? Okay, I might be talking out of my butt here. Partner firm. Okay, so the partner firm is PSG Global Solutions. They supplied the data but had no role in analysis, manuscript preparation, or decision to publish. Okay, both authors and research assistants declare no financial or personal conflicts of interest during the conduct of this study. After the study was completed, Brian Jabarian accepted an unpaid advisory role as chief AI economist at PSG Global Solutions, which is the company they used, and a renewed 5-year research partnership providing extended access for future data and field experiments. Okay, apparently no money was spent and they had no say in the decision to publish. So I take that back. This seems fairly clean, and they obviously had to work with the recruiting agency to be able to get the data, and this recruitment agency has a generative AI platform. So this is great for the AI platform of this recruitment agency. They're going to be able to take the study and go and sell their services. They're going to be able to white label their solution, etc. But it doesn't look like they've paid for this research. So I take that back. I'm sorry, Ethan. I should not have besmirched you. So pretty rough if you are in recruitment. I would say that if you are also something like an estate agent, a realtor, for example, or any kind of agency role where you sit between two parties, you should be looking at this and thinking, ooh. Basically agents as an intermediary between two parties in a transaction. So in the case of recruitment, the two parties are the applicant and the company, and the recruiter sits in between. In the case of real estate, you're going to have the buyer and the seller, and you're going to have a realtor or real estate agent in the middle. There are many different agency businesses. All of them should probably be looking at this research and thinking, okay, what do we do about this? Because this is going to sweep through the industry. So I think the obvious thing is you start to use AI for the matching. That is literally what AI is good at, what generative AI is good at: pattern matching. If you give it a big database of all the houses that you have to sell and a big database of all the buyers that you have, it's going to be much better able to link them up, connect them, and start to set up deals than any human can. Because if you have a list of 10,000 properties, there's no way a human being can pair everything up as well as a computer can. So that matching process in any agency role, I think AI is going to have a huge part of moving forward. What is interesting from this study is the fact, though, that it's not just that, it's the AIs are making better decisions and people prefer to use the AI instead of the human recruiter. That doesn't bode well for the recruiters. Yeah. So Sorry if any of you in recruitment have a look at this. The paper though, the paper's quite long. It's about 80 pages, but I think it's well worth dipping into. If you search Ethan Mollick on Twitter or LinkedIn, you'll be able to find a link to it. So what else did we have? I've got this one. Okay, so this one's interesting. Grammarly. So Grammarly, I'm sure most people know Grammarly is how do you describe it? It's like spell check on steroids. And Grammarly has been around for years. Grammarly actually uses, same with autocomplete, like older versions of artificial intelligence. So you know how some people call ChatGPT, it's basically really advanced autocomplete. It's not untrue, but it's a little bit more than that because of the transformer and the attention mechanism. But Grammarly is one of these companies that was already doing AI. We just didn't call it AI back then. But what they had created was basically artificial intelligence. So they were using machine learning and forms of artificial intelligence before AI was like the new hot thing. So Grammarly are now jumping on board with that. And it's an interesting one for them because when we talk about plagiarism, when we talk about generative AIs, the fact that Gen AI is basically a plagiarism engine, this is a criticism that's thrown at it. Grammarly was often excluded because people would say like, oh, yeah, but you use Grammarly, right? And even anti-AI people would be like, yeah, of course I do. That's different. So interestingly, Grammarly are now jumping on the bandwagon and they're introducing AI tools as well. And I think they're just surfacing the fact that their main tool is based on artificial intelligence, just a different form. But they're now adding in full Gen AI tools by the looks of it. So they have AI agents. So they have, there's a big list of them. Here we are. Oh, they have an AI native writing surface. That sounds like a tablet to me, but with a fancy name for it. Here we go. So they have a reader reactions agent, predicts key takeaways, open questions, potential confusion based on target readers. That's really cool. Whether that's a professor, manager, or client, and provides feedback to adjusting writing based on a reader. This is something that I always recommend you do if you have written something like a sales page or a legal document. You ask an AI in a new chat to pick holes in the document. You say, hey, I'm going to be giving this to, or this is going to be a sales page that my customer is going to come to, or this is a legal document that I'm going to use to have an agreement. Pick holes in it, find the problems, what's going to confuse people, etc. What are the objections? And you can use it as basically a mirror to bounce off, and then you can rewrite based on that. So they're building that directly into Grammarly. That's awesome. AI grader agent provides substantive feedback aligned to uploaded rubrics, course information, writing templates, and publicly available instruct information to deliver tailored recommendations and estimated grades before submission. Oh, okay. So this is, they're on the edge here. This is a tool in all that fancy language. God, substantive feedback aligned to uploaded rubrics. Basically, you give it the marking scheme and you give it your essay, and it's going to work out what grade you'd get based on that marking scheme. And then presumably you can then ask it, okay, how do I nudge it up to an A? That's the next step, obviously, because if it comes back and it says you get a B minus, then you're going to go back and rework it using AI probably. Citation finder agent, okay, that's awesome. Delivers relevant evidence that supports disputes and refutes claims in a piece of writing and automatically generates correctly formatted citations. Ooh, that's a problem. I know one person who has a citation AI tool, a really good one. So Grammarly just building that into theirs is a problem. Expert review agent offers subject matter expertise and personalized topic-specific feedback to elevate writing that meets rigorous academic and professional standards. Okay, so just an assessment. Proofreader agent, AI detector agent. That's funny. Scans text to provide a score of whether the text was likely AI or human-generated. Plagiarism checker agent. I thought they had that already. And a paraphraser agent adapts to writing to fit to intended tone, audience, and style. Okay, so these are all fairly simple. I don't know why they're calling them agent. It's just going to be a prompt. It's going to be a prompt plus what you've written and then an output. But I think sticking the word agent on it makes it sound fancy. I bet they even have a little loading screen, or it takes longer or something to make you feel that it's doing something special. But this just sounds like very basic. Generative AI has been plugged in and they are surfacing it more. So previously Grammarly got away with not being AI because they didn't market themselves as that, and they've been around for a decade or so. I think now they've seen where the money is flowing into, and they're like, we're AI, and they've bolted on a handful of Gen AI tools as well. I should point out, This is not sponsored by Grammarly, and if it was, I don't think they'd be very happy because I'm dumping on their new AI tools. I'm sorry. I'm sure they're fine. But with all of these things, the proof is always in the pudding, because companies can come out and say, oh, we built all these new agents, but if you try it the first time and it's rubbish, you're not going to use it again. And this is a problem Microsoft have had, for example, all of their Microsoft Copilot 365 features. Oh, we added AI agents into PowerPoint and AI agents into Excel. The first time you use them, you're like, oh, yeah, but this is terrible. I'm not going to use it. You have to provide a tool that is better than somebody just going to ChatGPT and doing it themselves. If it's not better than ChatGPT, there's no point doing it. So that would be the question with things like their reader reaction agent, for example. Could I just copy paste my essay, take it to ChatGPT and ask for reader reactions, key takeaway, open questions and potential confusions, and get a better result? If so, how useful is this? But having a nice, easy interface button for people to click in Grammarly, having an existing user base, etc., will mean people will use this. It just may not be as exciting as this press release says. Cool. So yeah, if you use Grammarly, I guess that's exciting. As exciting as using a spell check can be. Hello, Jackson from Burundi. I'm interested in delivery service. I'm not sure what that means, but hello. It is amazing that I can sit in my front room in London and I have somebody from Vietnam. I know I can see someone from Sweden, someone from Burundi. It's still magic. I think we forget this. And if you do want to build an audience for your business, if you want to create content, there's literally no better time to do so, because we have this, I can just talk to a camera about artificial intelligence and have hundreds of people around the world listen in. Really cool. So if you are thinking about doing content, I fully recommend it. I've written a few guides. They're over on aiwithkyle.com about audience growth and how to build up an audience and why building an audience is so important if you want to run a business. It's not just to make sales. Making sales is great, but it's also idea validation. So when I have an idea for a business, I can go to my audiences on TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, and now YouTube and say, hey, I've got this idea. Would people be interested in it? And then I can gauge reaction based on that. So previously I'd have to build the product and then launch it and then just hope for the best. Now I can ask people, and if I have 100 people or 500 people say, that sounds really cool, that tells me that I can move ahead and build that. So there are advantages to having an audience that you don't really think about beyond sales, but extremely powerful. And again, the fact that I'm talking to somebody in Burundi, someone in Vietnam, people around Europe, maybe some Americans, it is magic. It really is. Oh, someone from Syria too. Hello. See, it's so cool. I've got an article about game development. So I play video games, it's my hobby. And if you ever go on a video game news site, like I want to say Kotaku or Polygon or Eurogamer, any video game website, whenever a video game is caught using AI, maybe they've used AI to create some placeholder text and then they left it in, maybe they've used AI to generate some of their images, etc., etc. Whenever this happens in the gaming world, there's a huge backlash. People get really angry, and sometimes people will be like, I won't buy this game. It used generative AI. It's destroying the creative industry, etc. It's an incredibly emotive subject in the gaming industry. However, it looks like there's a new study, this is pretty conclusive. This is from Google. 90% of game developers, so the people making games, are already using AI in their workflows, according to a new Google Cloud research. Study shows 97% of developers believe Gen AI is transforming the industry with a focus on creating dynamic worlds, intelligent non-player characters, NPCs, and more efficient workflows. And it sounds like 90% are already integrating technology in their workflows. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. We're seeing this in many industries. We're seeing this in government as well. So the Prime Minister of Sweden got in trouble last week for basically saying, oh yeah, I use ChatGPT, I bounced my queries off it, and everyone jumped on him like, how dare you, how can you run a country with AI? He wasn't. He was asking questions and using it to refine his thinking. He's a smart man, I'm sure. He wasn't just asking ChatGPT for policy decisions. But people hate that this stuff is being used, especially in creative industries like the game industry. However, it looks like 90% of game developers, at least in this study, so a study of 615 game developers in the US, South Korea, Norway, Finland, and Sweden, found that 97% of respondents believe that Gen AI specifically is reshaping the industry, with the majority, 90%, already integrating the technology into their workflows. So people are using it. They are just, for the most part, keeping it on the low down because they know if they admit it publicly, they will get in trouble for it. Even if all the people who then yell at them and shout at them are probably using it themselves. So we're in a weird situation right now where it's almost shameful to be using it. Most of them are using it for accelerating workflow. So an overwhelming 90% of developers are using it. 95% say that AI is reducing repetitive tasks, freeing them to focus on more strategic and creative concerns. This is what we should be using AI for. We should be using it to get rid of the mundane so that we can focus on the kind of truly original and the creative stuff. So if you spend less time in meetings and answering emails and doing kind of workflow stuff like ingesting and sending files, etc., if AI can deal with that mundane stuff, that gives you more time to focus on building your business, on talking to customers, on creating product, etc., the important stuff, because we can get rid of the mundane. But they're also using it for creative innovation. Okay, so 36% of respondents personally using it for dynamic level design, animation, and dialogue writing. So that's a lot less, which makes sense. Enhancing player experiences, etc. Okay, so I think the takeaway there is that most of them are using it for workflows, boring stuff, and less of them, but still some, are using it for the creative tasks. About 30% are using it for creative tasks. And I'm sure we'll see this across creative industries as well. Like the film industry is currently going through a similar shakeup with a lot of people hating on AI, especially in script writing, for example. We keep having what are they called? Yeah, strikes from the Writers Guild. And AI is a large part of that because obviously AI can be used as a tool to help writing, but the fear is that AI is just going to be used to produce the scripts and script writers won't be needed. Whether or not that's the case depends. I was about to say mean things about a lot of the films that I've watched recently. Could have been written by AI, they're terrible, but I won't be ungenerous. Cool, so I'm going to finish up with some questions and then finish up the live. My camera has not melted, which is fantastic because I'm doing it at 30 frames per second. So unlike yesterday, I don't need to hop off. Oh, I think I've answered all the questions. Fantastic. In that case, I'm going to wrap up for the day. As always, you can find the section recordings over on YouTube. They should now all be in beautiful 4K. That is the hope. Apparently the first ones just went up this morning. I need to go and check them out before my camera melted. So yeah, we're upgrading the quality. Everything's going to be looking better, but it's still going to be, the clips from the live show are going to be taken onto YouTube. They're easy to find, as well as a daily newsletter which is created using the topics that were discussed the day before. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube. We are currently at, I know it's an obsession, but we're at 3,000 something followers. Let's have a look what we're at now. 3,049. I'm getting there slowly. Just trying to work my way up to 10,000 very slowly. So yeah, any support on YouTube would be much appreciated. It's the same channel name, so I am Kyle Barmer at YouTube. And then the newsletter is free and you can find it in the link either below this video or link in bio. And that's going to give you a daily news update where it goes through all of the topics I've discussed, but it's just a couple of paragraphs of written content for you, just to make it easier for you to access information. Cool. I will be back tomorrow morning at around 10 a.m. London time. Thank you again for all of your questions, and I'll see you soon.